Welcome back to 83 Till Infinity. This is Disco Trek, our Star Trek Discovery Season 3 podcast. We're talking episode 4 today. It's entitled Forget Me Not, directed by Hanelle M. Culpepper, and written by Alan McElroy, Chris Silvestri, and Anthony Marinville. Or maybe it says Marinville, I don't know. I guess we'll start off with ratings. What do you guys give it out of 10? Alex?
I'm gonna say 8, but I mean I feel like I'm the optimist every time, so I'm gonna go with 8.
I give this one a 9 out of 10. This is a good Star Trek episode. This is classic Trek. It gets a 9 out of 10.
Okay, yeah. I actually give it a 6, and I give it a 6 because I think it's a good TNG episode, good self-contained episode. But they have important things to do, and I have some issues with how they're spending some of their time here. So we'll get to that later. Predictions wise, again, no main character deaths, no resurrections or cameos, no new details on the burn. Saru remains captain. I don't know if anybody had any Trill predictions.
Well, there wasn't a Trill prediction, but one of the things that I did talk about was that I would like to see Trill. So I mean,
there you go.
That's a win.
Right up your alley.
You won. You win the show today, Alex.
Alex wins.
Yeah. Every day we get a winner.
Okay, so why don't we go straight to episode discussion? Alex, do you want to go first?
Sure. So the first one I've highlighted there, Bert, is really just to talk about the science fiction set pieces that we have. And I know they're getting a lot of flack for what they're doing wrong. But I think that one thing that they're doing right is the absolutely beautiful set pieces that we see every episode. Mm-hmm. And I mean, sprinkling in some cool aliens is always something that I'm happy to do, especially because it feels like they're really trying this time, especially with competitors now in the science fiction field where I have all kinds of weird aliens all the time. It's nice to see some little flourishes.
Yeah, Dr. Mandible.
Yeah, I was actually referring to Dr. Mandible.
Dr. Mandible.
That's exactly who I was referring to.
So why don't we take a look at some of the Trill homeworld beauty? Honestly, it
Why do they always park a shuttlecraft so far away from where they're going to go to?
It's like you know the answer, Jesse. It's so that we can get that nice scene where they walk through a pretty set.
Yeah, and why didn't they transport down? I don't understand that piece. Did I miss something from previous episodes? Is the transporter not working?
They never explained it. They just decided to take a shuttlecraft.
Yep, I think it's just so we can see the set pieces.
I think
100%.
With the landing, I think there's probably a Starfleet regulation for exercise, so that you have to land a certain distance away, so that you got to get your steps.
That is, that's a pretty picture right there. That's pretty. That's what they wanted. They had like this idea for like that could be like that's gonna be my new wallpaper. That's really good looking.
They did a really good job. I mean, Trill is one of the cooler science fiction-y things, and so I'm really glad that we got a 2020 beautiful Trill picture that we can put in my headcanon now forever.
Yeah. Well, this is a little bit related to the fact that the Trill homeworld looks absolutely amazing.
Right.
But one of the general thoughts that I had that I guess ties in here a bit is this place looks like paradise. Like, like I know that they're having some issues with their symbionts and not having that many hosts or potential hosts for them, but it seems like they're doing pretty well. I don't know that they need the Federation.
Right.
Just saying.
Yep. I mean, I do agree with you, and I think that is a good point. I think that one thing it's going to be strange about going to these set pieces is when you see them, why leave? Like, I mean, like, interstellar travel exists. So, but like it's like everything is perfect. It's sort of like a Hawaii discussion. Like, people go to Hawaii and then they go back home, and I'm always curious why. But I guess there's some exploring to do, and a spacefaring nation, and people have jobs to do. But I mean, I think it's similar to that.
Yeah. And there are so many strange things about the sort of why leave. You could have said the same thing about Earth, right? You know, you've just traveled through time. Everybody that you know or ever met in your life is dead, except maybe some symbionts if you knew some Trill, I guess. And you saved the universe, super stressful. Everybody's really having a hard time adjusting, and you go back to your home planet and then you immediately leave. Like, what are the chances that nobody from Discovery would have been like, I've done enough for this damn universe, I'm out, guys, I'm gonna stay here on, you know, idyllic future Earth and hang out with this tree?
I think some of that is a science fiction discussion. Like, some of it is, like we talked about last week, some of it is the Federation a bunch of ships, or is it an idea, or is it a home world, or is it that? And I think the theme we're exploring now is what is the Federation? And I think that the reason we had that episode and that jarring leaving of Earth so quickly was to try and be like, remember, the Federation isn't just humans from Earth. Like, it's more than that.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay, well, the Trill thing that I wanted to talk about is Trills. I mean, we have a great piece of science fiction here, which is, a multiple memories put into a person. Obviously, Dick did it with, like, you plug in chips to your brain. In Star Trek, it's done very well with these Trills. The idea is that there are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entire full live experiences inside of you. And so it's sort of interesting, and they did sort of touch on it in the episode, was where do the people start and where do they stop? And as we were talking about as well, like, it does make for some confusing stuff. Like, if one person hates lasagna and one person loves lasagna, or if one person, loves the way certain species looks, and does that now make me like the way, like, is it an appreciation thing? Like classical music, like, is it, I think everyone would like classical music if, like, they had the right training or they were exposed to the right piece. And so if you have 7 people's lifetime, maybe you just love everything, and maybe that's why your homeworld looks so beautiful, is that you just have been exposed to so much beauty and so much art that you can find the beauty in art in absolutely everything.
Yeah. I mean, it also makes for a really optimistic view of, existence, right? Because the fact that the Trill with symbionts who are, technically hundreds or thousands of years old are not the most sort of jaded, smarmy, cynical people in the universe says that, existence is good. Like, you could make the exact opposite argument that, the cynic would say, well, what happens after 1,000 years after everything there is to know about musical theory? Is all music then very predictable and rote, and you get tired and bored of it all? But, they still seem to enjoy things, which is kind of nice to see.
I think you could go negative with it, though. They should have. I'd love to see a Trill. What if you're a regular Trill, right? You're a regular person, and they put a symbiote in you, because it looks like you get them in like your 20s or 30s or something, right? You don't get them, like, they're not putting them in kids.
Yeah.
That's
not on purpose.
That's indecent.
Yep.
Anyway, but so they put a symbiote in. What if the symbiote was racist? That's what I want to know, right? Because there's black and white, and there's a bunch of different colored Trills. So it looks like there's ethnic diversity amongst the Trill, because they live. It seems like they live forever, right? What do they do if there's a symbiote that has a bunch of, like, personalities in it that are like bigots or dictators? Do they just get rid of it? Do they throw those symbionts out? Are they just like, no? When once we capture that guy, that symbiont's getting tossed in the garbage disposal.
Right. And I think that's a really good point, Jesse, because I think, like, they talk about the circle a lot, right? Like, and so if one guy's a bigot and then there's 5, like, calming voices, does maybe the one bigot, like, change his ways, or the opposite? Does the one bigot start, like, convincing the circles, like, you know what? You're right. Yeah, right. Klingons are the worst. I think we should. The races
shouldn't. Trills are superior to everyone. The races shouldn't mix.
Right. Exactly.
Spock is an abomination, right? Vulcan and human.
But there was talk about that in the episode, right? Like they were talking about how like the purity of is an important factor in their culture, and again, that kind of talk is dangerous. And of course, it was explained in the episode that kind of purity is why they have reached the place that they are, combined with the burn, which again has done a lot of damage. Meta plot wise, not sure. Like the Trill are like, we have so few hosts. Like I guess a lot of them were on like ships. I
guess that was a question I had. What was happening on? So number one, I mean, I think from a canon perspective, there's like, I'm just joking. There's an idea, I think, that the symbiotes are sort of benevolent somehow, right? That there's like that they're not like they choose who they attach to, and so maybe if you have like Trill Hitler, the symbionts are just like I'm not bonding with Trill Hitler. No one wants to do it, right? Not that guy, right? We'll pick someone else. But I mean, I was also really curious because the whole episode is Michael Burnham takes Adira to the planet. They go to the caves. They dip her in the water. She becomes a precog. I love that. It looks like the precog scene when her eyes go white.
I know. They have to do it in every single science fiction.
That's what when your eyes go white, that's how you know that you're going inside your head, right? That we wouldn't know any other way. When Adira and her boyfriend Gray are on that ship where Gray's getting the symbiote, because they're like in the med bay on that ship and they're like having some downtime after, what happens to the ship? Because you see something black outside. It's like a cloud. It looks like almost like a cloud in the background or something. I was wondering, is that supposed to be the burn? Is that part of the burn? Are we seeing the burn? I don't know how far, how long ago. I don't know.
And like it hit an asteroid or something.
They look like a physical collision to me as well.
Doesn't seem like something that should happen 900 years in the future. You think like it's not like that. You never hear of that happening anyway. Like what happened? Asteroid randomly hit the Excelsior and everyone Sulu's dead. Everyone's dead. They weren't watching where they were flying.
Right. But yeah, it did look like that. I mean, because we have such good piloting, I mean, that is why we don't have all these stories, Jesse. Like, because of very good piloting is how we get to not crashing into stuff.
Like, I was thinking about Curzon Dax, right? Like, if you remember, like, Curzon Dax was the previous host of the Dax that was the original Trill on Deep Space Nine. And Sisko knew the previous host. He was like an ambassador or like a general, I think an ambassador. And Sisko had worked with him before or something, and he called him old man. My understanding was that the Trill often acted as, ambassadors and diplomats and negotiators and mediators because, if there was an accord from 500 years ago that people were saying that, you're not respecting the spirit of, maybe they were actually there when it was signed or a previous host was there. So they could say, well, when we were negotiating that, what we actually meant was X, Y, Z. And so the Trill were extremely useful to have around because they were so long-lived or like, I guess they're not that long-lived technically, but they retain the memories of the previous hosts. So I could see a lot of the Trill with symbionts being on ships during the time of the burn. Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me.
Why did Jadzia leave the show? Why did was that actress just forced off? Was it just like a creative decision? Like because they killed the Jadzia Dax and they brought the next Dax on. Yeah. The Star Trek equivalent of the second Aunt Viv that nobody wanted, right? Nobody wanted second Dax.
Yeah, nobody wanted replacement Dax.
Yeah.
I don't know why they got rid of her, to be honest. Maybe she asked for more money. Or maybe one of the writers was just like, let's kill her and replace her with somebody else.
Yeah, because I remember, I she was, when I was a kid, she was like one of my favorites. Like, I thought she was cool. There was a cool,
I do wonder if it was just like a science fiction decision. Like, people are like, you know what? We got to add some science fiction to our war documentary show.
Yeah.
There were too many Jadzia stories. Avery Brooks got jealous, and he's the one who was like, I'm walking. If you don't get rid of her, I want a less popular Dax.
The entire Dax death was just, it was ad-libbed. It was him. he kept putting it into the plot. Jadzia is dead.
Oh my God, she's dead.
He keeps saying it every scene. We have to kill her.
They sent her home, and they had to pay out the rest of her contract.
I do think that there's going to be more ghost friend situation going on. They really love the ghost friend thing on Discovery.
Oh yeah,
they really do.
That Gray character is going to be with Adira for at least 2 seasons, if Adira makes it 2 seasons. But you can't die in Discovery. They won't kill main characters. They killed Dr. Culber, which is probably a bad idea to kill him in the first place. But then it's like they're like, oh, there was some negative fan reaction. Let's bring him back through the mycelial network and make him weird for a while. And now he's weird, and Stamets is the one who's off kilter. Why can't anyone just be solid at work in this show? It's like no one can ever have. Stamets is fine. He always had his stuff together, and now he's. More on that later. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, did you have another one that you wanted to discuss?
The only small thing I wanted to talk was, the small clip of when they're walking back to the shuttle. I mean, I thought it was a bit ridiculous. Oh, yeah, run it here.
The symbiont belongs with us.
It is a part of her. It is not your choice.
I'm making it my choice.
It's just a classic, and I know that they have sci-fi knives, but when you bring a knife to a situation where people have guns, I just don't understand what kind of outcome. It's literally bringing a knife to a gunfight, and I really do not understand.
Is that the best way of protecting yourself? You have 900 years in the future? I feel like they don't even zap. They're just plastic sticks that light up. That's all the Trill have.
Well, what's funny later is when they confront them again is that Michael Burnham doesn't reach for her gun for some reason, and she's just like, "Oh, they got me now.
Got me."
They brought knives twice, and this time I can't defend myself.
I forgot to charge my phaser before we left. Those are the only shots I had, guys. Well played. You know what? I actually had the same idea about sort of weaponry and personal defense. You would think that 930 or 50 or whatever years in the future, they would have a little bit more in the way of personal shields to protect yourself from, phaser fire. It just, one of the issues that I'm having is it doesn't feel like it's 900 years after Discovery.
Right.
And maybe that'll come. Maybe the Federation is hoarding all the new technology and nobody else that we've met has come up with anything really interesting. But I'm kind of worried for the Star Trek timeline, as far as ability to introduce cool new things and then having to retcon it out because Discovery is so far in the future that they have to remove it because it's not in Discovery later on. I'm kind of worried that Discovery jumped too far and then didn't do enough world building as far as what does another 800 years after TNG look like technology wise. But maybe they just have chosen not to show their amazing ideas.
What bothers me is they thought about it for the starbase, for the guy who lives in the starbase. When it started off and you had everything was these sort of holograms, that was kind of neat. And it looked like, oh, they've thought about how things might look 900 years in the future. But then they just sort of stopped, and now it's just it looks like now, but less populated.
Right. Yeah, and I know we talked about it before, but they did brush on this again. This episode is, like you're saying, Bert, it's 1,000 years in the future, and they're like, and Saru's like, oh, you know what? We have a capable warp drive, and nobody else does after 1,000 years. And it's just hard. It's just hard to believe that nobody else has got anything else that's working. And maybe we are going to see people that have got something sorted out. But as far as the meta plot goes, I do think it's strange that it does feel 1,000 years in the future and people still have glowy sticks and guns. Nothing has changed so that people are not getting shot in subspace or you're not attacking somebody in quantum where they can't see you or kinds of things that 1,000 years is a long time when we have exponential growth of technology, especially when it comes to weapons. If there's one thing that the universe can do very well, it's make new weapons, new ways to kill people.
New ways to kill people is our specialty. I'm waiting for it.
I think you're going to be waiting forever. It's not happening. I don't want to say that it's, I don't think you're ever going to get it. I think this is it.
No.
They've shown their hands. We've got a shield around Earth and glowy sticks, and that's it.
Yeah, and glowy sticks. And the personal, like the like short-range transporters, which when I actually sat and thought about it, that's not new. That's in Picard.
Yeah.
Like the assassins use short-range transporters all the time. They use it mid-fight. So
they do.
Like that.
Remember in Star Trek Insurrection, they were were just like transporting people. Like those ships were flying around there, transporting people out everywhere, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Jesse, you want to start with your points?
Sure. I just want to talk about Saru's dinner party. This felt like the most Star Trek episode of Discovery yet, in my opinion. Well, not yet. No, I mean, the first season had better episodes, but this so far between the second season and this season, this is the first time we've seen this type of an episode in a while that also kind of had like a clear beginning and end. A lot of the episodes I feel like they're jumbles and sort of things happen in the middle, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of cohesion around the narrative, so you don't feel like there's like a beginning, a middle, and the end. You feel like I'm seeing part of the last episode, then I see some stuff, and then some other stuff, and it ends kind of funny. But this was nice. This felt like a full story arc contained inside of an episode, and I like that they didn't try to do too many things. They just had what was happening with Saru on the ship and what was happening with Michael and Adira on Trill. So it was good. I did like it. But that dinner party, again, this is like the fact that the captain has a dinner party is it feels like a TNG thing to do. Like you could see Picard having people come to his quarters and eat dinner with him. Why is Tilly there? Because I guarantee you Wesley Crusher didn't get to go to Picard's dinner party, right? Because he's an ensign and he doesn't belong even when he was Ensign Crusher, not when he was just Beverly's son. I mean, he had a better chance of being there because he was Beverly's son. You know, Beverly's like, can I bring Wesley along? And Picard's like, sure, you can bring Wesley along. But yeah, so number one, why is Tilly there? Number two, the fight between Stamets and Detmer. We know something's wrong with, at this point, you can tell something's wrong with Detmer because of her implant, right? It messed up, and now she, they're all doing, is it haikus? Are they doing haikus?
Yeah.
Haikus, and she starts talking about Stamets' blood because he was in sickbay because he got impaled, right? And she tries to do it, and it's clear that she's kind of having like a mental break, right? Because of whatever's going on with her implant. But then he gets really offended, right? Okay, you got stabbed, right, by a piece of metal, but you're fine now because it's the future and you have medicine. But he gets so offended, and then he gets just as ridiculous as she's being. But he has no reason, right? She's been infected with something that's like controlling her mind a little bit. He's just being an idiot, right? He's just being a completely childish human who's like, how dare you? How dare you? I was stabbed.
I'm gonna end you.
Yeah, and then they're fighting in front of the frigging captain, right? Like Saru's your captain. Everyone's fighting in front of him, and then when the fight's done, they're like, "Screw you, Saru. We're all leaving," and they just leave him there. And then if you go ahead, then a whole bunch of other stuff happens with Michael and everything. Then if you go to 46 minutes, Bert, Saru's still just like, after the episode's all over, he never got up from his seat. He's so traumatized by the fact that nobody has any bloody respect for him that he just sat there for like an hour. There he is with his hand on his head.
With the Picard,
Yeah, I don't think he's captain material anymore. Like he just... this poor guy, he didn't discipline anybody. Like they had a blow up in front of him, and then no one thought to ask, like, what's wrong with both of you, right?
Yeah.
Because this is when you might have discovered that something's wrong with Detmer. Like clearly something's wrong with her, and the dinner party was such a gong show.
Right.
It was fair.
The fact that Dr. Culber didn't say he's watching her. Right, and she's constantly touching her implant, and she's like freaking the hell out. And he's just like, I guess she's under a lot of stress. Like, what the hell? You're a doctor.
But I kind of like Culber now. He's so laid back and snarky with everyone, but it's just kind of like chilled out. And she's like, maybe I should talk to him. He's like, yeah, you should talk to me. I'm the doctor. I don't know. Well, I'm not even paying attention. I got drunk at the party.
Culber is actually like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a point when he like, you know what I like about you, Michael? You're a responsibility hoarder, right? Like, you know, you take everything and put it on your own shoulders and you're, you know, stressing yourself out. It's not healthy, blah, blah, blah. Immediately after diagnosing her as having this responsibility hoarder issue, he gives her his responsibility, right? He's supposed to accompany Adira down to the planet, and he's just like, why don't you do my job? And she's just
it's because he didn't need to diagnose her. He was just setting it up so he could.
He's like, I don't know.
He wasn't diagnosing her. He was just setting her up so he could pawn off his work on her.
Yeah, I do feel for Saru.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
Poor
like
guy.
it was a really fun Trek moment. The fact that he's trying to like, you know, rally the crew by having a fancy dinner party. I would have liked to have seen Philippa get drunk though, and become like belligerent.
I wonder what she's like when she's drunk. Yeah, I think probably very aggressive.
Yeah, I just, you know, it would have actually been satisfying. She gets drunk and she's actually nicer when she's drunk. That might have been fun.
That would be very interesting.
Really fun, right?
All right, so on the Stamets ridiculous haiku fight, I mean, the thing I want to talk about briefly is a couple episodes ago when the bridge crew she safely flies them through and they all clapped. And everyone was like, we did it. And I was like, yes, it's such a great moment. Like the pilot pulled it through. And then to have this thrown in my face felt very I felt personally attacked. When Stamets is just like, we barely made it for the record. And I was just like...
You almost killed us all.
What makes me mad is that Stamets engages with someone who's like having like mental issues, and he goes right down to her level. He's like, you know what? Yeah, we barely made it. Stupid. You're an idiot.
If we had a different pilot, we probably would have had nobody die. Did you ever think of that?
We would have missed some of those asteroids.
To be fair, she did hit a couple of them while rerouting whatever the
Did you circle back to hit the ones that you missed?
Oh, I guess it's not so unrealistic then that the ship that Adira and her boyfriend were on would get hit by an asteroid.
Yeah.
Maybe Stamets is...
Maybe one of Detmer's descendants 900 years in the future was piloting their ship too.
Yep.
Everyone knows the Detmers are the worst pilots in the world.
It was one of the greatest Trek dinner parties ever, I think.
It was pretty fantastic.
It's like emblematic of Discovery too, where it's like they couldn't even have a dinner party without having a healthy helping of emotion to go along with it. Like it was just, this is Discovery. Hey, we're gonna have, our captain has invited the officers to have a normal dinner. Let's ruin it by freaking out and yelling at each other. And then Tilly comes back. I would have been like, did I? If I was Saru, I'd be like, did I call you? Did I summon you to my ready? Get the hell out of here, Tilly. You're not welcome here because you're an ensign.
Yeah.
Poor Tilly. She had another bad episode. I mean, she was obnoxious in that episode as well. I mean, I really want to like her. And I know that everyone hates her, and that makes me want to like her more. Like, it makes me want to be like, no, internet, you're wrong. But I mean, sometimes the internet is right. Sometimes the hive mind has come to a conclusion, and they
I like Adira better than Tilly. And I know Adira. I mean, like, kill Tilly, put Adira in her place. I'm like,
sure.
like, we could have Tilly. Maybe, you know what? I'm switching my prediction. Tilly dies this season.
Okay.
Yeah, and Adira takes her job.
And Adira takes her job. That's
I really think that the Adira, as far as like potential for a really interesting science fiction character, Adira is boundless. Like I really hope that somebody has a really good plan for that character, because there are so many ways that you can go. Yeah, an actress that plays her seems to have like a good amount of range and like a good sort of control of herself as an actor. So
yeah,
I'm really
you know,
excited
like
to see.
You get the sense that she's like a prodigy, right? Like the actress is playing it in a way where you think, oh yeah, there's like a depth of intelligence here, and this person deserves this space because they are actually like hyper intelligent. Whereas Tilly, everyone's like, oh, she's so smart, and I'm like, really? I mean, aside from what the writers tell me, I haven't seen it, right?
Yeah. And I mean, but that sort of reminds me of something. I guess another point on the whole Stamets-Detmer conversation, which is Stamets is a jerk. I mean, I don't know if it's that out of character for him, because if you remember, the first time he blows up is at Tilly. And she's like, what do we use the dark matter to, connect with the spore drive? And he was just like, get out of here with your nonsense.
Don't waste my time,
Don't waste my time. Which is something like a senior officer in, science or engineering not having time to hear the ideas of some ensign and telling the ensign not to waste their time is like an everyday sort of occurrence. It would be a throwaway scene. But here it was like, can you believe he said this to Tilly? I cannot believe this. Right. This is terrible. And they got to make up at the end, and he's got to apologize to her and tell her how valued she is as a member of staff, as an ensign. It's so strange to me. Like, I don't think you can you really run a vessel this way where, every time you have to tell a junior staff member not to bother you with half-baked ideas, you have to then go around and apologize to them. It seems like such a waste of time.
Yeah, you should go talk to Detmer. She's the one that you should patch things. And Tilly cries, and she's like, I know I'm great.
Yeah. I know
At that point, I wish Stamets had been like, you know what, screw you, you're terrible. I was lying. I was just trying to be nice. Everyone hates you. Get off the ship.
Right. Like, on that point, like, Detmer or Stamets, like, when she brought the idea up, he seemed to imply like those things were like just not connected in any way.
Yeah.
And so are they? Like, I guess it's the thing. Like, it was a strange science fiction moment for me, because I'm like, if you just Star Trek it up, like, Star Trek is famous for just saying a whole bunch of real scientific words mixed in with, nonsense words. And so, I mean, like you said, Bert, if the point is that every bad idea by junior staff has to be vetted by him, like, the ship would get nowhere. Like, you can't spend all your time with people suggesting ideas that aren't even connected. Like, the idea that dark matter and the mycelium are connected in no way is what I read from that conversation, and that's why she should be so like fairly rudely dismissed.
Yeah. And then when he asks her at the end, she's like, "Oh, I did the calculations. The math didn't work out." And so it seemed like it was a terrible idea.
It does seem like a bad idea.
I was just wasting your time before I had done any work to check out.
This is what I mean. She's actually bad. She's bad at her job. I actually, I was trying to actually think. I should go back through. Has she at any point really done anything worthwhile? There's my question, because it seems like she's always involved in everything they're doing, but I'm not sure she's ever made like a meaningful contribution.
I'm sure she has at some point. Like, that would seem like a huge oversight from the writers, unless they're secretly
they want you to hate her.
Yeah, exactly. Unless they want you to hate her.
But on the writers, they gave us another bad line. I'm not. You don't have to look this up, but I just. When the gray character says to Indira, the line is, because we have a love thing, idiot.
Yep. Yeah. Idiot. Written by people who have clearly been in a relationship before.
Those are people who have spoken to a woman. I've often had a great experience calling my significant other an idiot. Because we have a love thing, idiot. It's just the worst writing ever.
But maybe it's good writing though, Jess. Remember when you were talking about the potential previous inhabitants of the symbiotes being terrible people? Maybe one of them was just a really abusive spouse, and it's coming out.
Oh no!
Because she's like, I feel like you're different now. I feel like your things have changed. How much of you is really you? And then he's like. I'm all of me is me, idiot. And she's like that's what I mean. You weren't listening to me before.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the cello playing was fine. The cello was fine. It's the slapping that's the problem. And the constantly putting me down.
Yeah.
You were talking, Bert, about complaining about technology. So we saw Stamets, who's really angry that he got stabbed, impaled and then healed. Apparently, he can't deal with the fact that he's better. But then we see 900 years in the future. We see Gray get impaled almost in the same place in his body that Stamets was impaled, and yet he dies almost instantly and cannot be salvaged by technology 900 years in the future when not 5 episodes earlier, Stamets easily survives the same injury with 1,000-year-old technology.
Yeah.
That would be the same as like us not being able to cure the same, like infection that somebody got in the Middle Ages. Why couldn't they save Gray?
Never came up with antibiotics. What happened to him? Yeah. He got a scratch, so he's dead now. Like,
and it was like right here, like maybe through the kidney, right? Like Picard gets stabbed through the chest by a Nausicaan, right here, and he survives. He gets a new heart. It's okay, but you can't But you can't stab a Trill through their flank, I guess, or they'll just die.
Like, not only that, but then Picard dies again, and they put him into an android that's undiscernible from a human. Again, this is about 800 years before Discovery happens.
You think that like Soon, Dr. Soon, the like 20th or whatever, because there's just they're all played by Spiner, right? He'll come up again. There'll be another Soong. It'll be Spiner. But you think, like, why is everyone not just doing that? Why is anyone not just? Why is everyone not just in android bodies by this point?
Right? Yeah. Why haven't we gone full Futurama with like brains in jars, just like walking around?
Yeah. These are people who just wanted to set it in a place where the rules didn't apply, so they could be like, we can go to any planet and anything can be happening, and we don't want to have to think about anything or like build an interesting future.
Like, I honestly think it's going to cause a problem for the franchise in the future, because, like, how do you introduce, if somebody has an idea for a really cool new technology that they want to introduce into Star Trek, and they have to go 1,001 years in the future because Discovery has already eaten up all the time in between without really developing any monumental new things or even like incremental improvements on existing technology that we would expect to see.
But no, everything's the same except we have a giant shield now. It took us 900 years to build it. It's like that cathedral in Barcelona that they've been building forever, right? Like, it took us that long that we only did the shield, just the shield. There's been no Starfleet Academy looks the same. That tree's still there. We're not doing anything else.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start on my points, and look, I could go on about like the self-centeredness of this plot line. The Federation crumbles, and nobody bothers to build anything as a successor organization because it's only the Federation that could possibly do it. No other group of alien species could have come up with something. No, it has to be the Federation or nothing. Lawlessness. That's the only other option. Anyway, my first point was the Trill proposing to join the Federation someday. Maybe in the future we'll talk about another type of joining if you guys return. I don't see why. They don't seem to have any need for the Federation. Their planet looks pretty ideal. Like, it looks fantastic. They look like they're doing a really good job. I'm sure that they could get access to humans who want to have the experiences of a 1,000-year-old being and get its skills as well for the rest of their life and then transfer to somebody else without joining the Federation. I'm sure that there are people who would volunteer for that if only they could get that distance. So I don't know why they would propose to join the Federation. And I don't know what their government structure is like, but it seems like this lady just has the power to just say so on her own.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like, she just says, like, on behalf of everyone, maybe we'll join. Maybe it wasn't, though. Maybe that was a pickup line directed at Michael Burnham.
Maybe. Yeah.
Right? We'll talk about another type of join.
Honestly, it's a fair point, Jesse, because...
That would be awesome. Michael comes back. She's going to join the Federation.
I'm going to join the Federation. And she's sitting there with like candles and a bottle of wine. She's like, Federation.
But to your point, Bert, now that the sort of idea has been unlocked that they can have non-Trill hosts, I guess humans, I don't know, maybe other things would be cool hosts other than humans, but I mean, now that they have that, like, now that that taboo has been broken and they can start exploring it, they certainly don't need specifically the human Federation to join. I agree with you. exactly see what they have to offer.
Yeah.
But
Well, they
also
have
to your
guns
point,
instead of just glowy sticks. Right?
Just
Hey, maybe
glowy
they're like,
sticks
they can protect us. All we got is sticks.
yeah, and they have a big shield on their planet. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Like it took them 1,000 years to build, but it's a beautiful shield. But yeah, I think that the joining though being the clearly telegraphed, like we're going to rebuild the Federation, like that, as far as science fiction goes, as far as Trek goes, I mean, that's as Trekky as you can get. Like, the Federation's blown up. What's the first thing that Star Trek needs to do? Is like, we need to establish a Federation. We have to find a homeworld. We have to do the things that are like the core to the soul of Star Trek. And so I'm happy that they got their first recruits. Like, it did give me a smile at the end when they're like, we did it.
Yeah. So that was my first response to it. Like, yeah, they're getting the gang together. But my second response, or my second thought, was, again, as a great Star Trek scene once said, the sheer effing hubris of,
That's the only good use of Picard I've ever seen.
Can you imagine if a Roman legion, ship, a trireme or whatever, a bunch of guys row it on the shore of the United States of America, and they say, where's Rome? And the Americans are like, Rome? Roman Empire fell years ago, pal. They're like, we have to reestablish the Roman Empire for the good of the planet. Like, what?
Right. Like the Roman Empire was the best, so we have to immediately start making it.
Guys, everything else sucks.
Right. Like, and as you said earlier, Bert, like, and nobody has made any kind of federation. Like, if like there's 1,000 civilizations and they're joined and they're called the Union, like, that's okay. Like, we're going to join the Union now. It just has a different name.
That should have been the plot. They come there, there's like the Union. They're like, the Union. No,
that's unacceptable. It has to be called the Federation.
Isn't that what the Federation thing is called in what's the show with Seth MacFarlane's Star Trek show?
If I did that accidentally, then that's a great job of me accidentally.
I like the Orville. Like, it's not perfect, but I think it's like 90s Trek, and it's gotten less funny over time and more just like decent.
Right.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually like, for a while it was the best Star Trek on TV, in my opinion, or at least while season 2 of Discovery was on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so the first clip point that I wanted to talk about, and these two are, I guess, sort of connected, but the segment, I don't need to play the clip. It's this one here at 20:45 or so, and it's when Saru is in his ready room asking the computer for ideas for how to help the crew out.
Computer?
Hello.
Hello?
Among many sentient beings, laughter is both healing and meaningful. 20th century Earth comedians such as Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin are communal unifiers without the burden of language.
Buster Keaton? Computer, run a level 10 diagnostic.
I'm fully operational, thank you.
These connections are beyond the algorithm, I presume.
Okay, we've watched a lot of Star Trek. The computer is acting screwy. The computer is, operating beyond its programming. And Saru's reaction is, tell me more, computer. Give me more suggestions.
Who's Buster Keaton? The computer's breaking completely, and he's like, And what about this Dave Chappelle guy? Like, who else?
So Dave Chappelle's funny, right?
Yeah. You know what I don't get is how come, like, right now, if you're like, hey, Siri, I'm saying that because if I say Google, my phone's going to come alive and she's going to ask me something, and I'm trying to use my phone as the camera. But, like, if you ask Siri, like, recommend a comedian, even now, Siri's not going to be like Charlie Chaplin. She's not going to represent something that's not topical. She's going to say like Kevin Hart or who's the guy, the clean comic with the really like platinum hair. He always talks like this.
Jim Gaffigan.
She might say Jim Gaffigan. I don't know. She's not going to say Charlie Chaplin, let alone someone who's been dead for 500 years. The Marquis de Sade. Look him up.
Yeah, the Marquis de Sade.
1,000 years. He's been dead for like, Charlie Chaplin at this point has been dead for like 1,500 years.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, like, at least like the computer doesn't know any of the future, like the people beyond like Discovery's time. But at least you think like, wasn't there somebody in the past like 100 years who was like a really good like comedian?
Uh-huh.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Jesse, because I was using one of those apps that recommends something to watch. And after I put in my algorithm, the first thing it recommended was Charlie Chaplin. And I was like, and then I immediately put it on. And I put on The Dictator. I watched it. I was like, I love this movie. The algorithm was right.
That's crazy.
But
they're laughing way too much at that movie at the end, too. It's not that funny. Like
it's not that funny. No,
the crew's dying. It's like they're watching George Carlin do stand up at his height or something, right? Like they're just killing themselves over like a silent film where there's a bunch of people running around meaninglessly.
There's not all punchlines. There has to be build up to some of these jokes.
What do they do? There's like a guy driving fast on something and they're like dying with laughter.
Yeah. All slapstick. Mm-hmm. It's all like people smashing into one another and falling on their face, and they're just like, "This is amazing!"
And it feels to me for like make it edge. Like why couldn't it be like, you know, like they could show like because you can swear on that show. They could have had like Richard Pryor doing some of his best bits, right? The crew might have legitimately laughed at that, but not at that silent film. Nope,
silent films. But like again, this is you're captain of the ship. The computer is acting screwy, and you just leave it alone. You don't ask any of your science staff to look into this. You follow its instructions. The computer's like, "Why don't you do this thing?" Like, that's not in your programming. I'll give it a shot. Like, what?
Right, and then he immediately comes up with a plan, and he's just like, you know what? I think everything's fine. I think Sphere's here. Everything's fine. I don't think any investigation is needed.
Like next
I
episode,
have decided by myself.
Next episode, what if the computer? He's like, computer tactical assessment, and they just come across a ship, and the computer's like, kill it. He's like, well, it seems outside of your programming, but let's give it a shot. Let's go with the computer.
And then the computer's
fire
like,
photon torpedoes.
Kill them all. And he's like, run a diagnostic. Everything okay? You're fine? All right. Now I've got a dinner party to plan. He's become like Fraser Crane at this point. It's going to be funny. He's too obsessed with his status in the dinner party. He's going to have that he ignores the fact that the computer's trying to kill everybody.
Yeah. It really is, yeah.
So the computer's malfunctioning, and then he at the end, when they're playing the silent film, when he follows the computer's second suggestion, which works, I guess, he is like, I think I know what's happening. The sphere data from this, 100,000-year-old spacefaring being that's inhabiting our ship's memory is sentient and wants to repay us for saving it by saving us. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's one way to interpret that. But again, the sheer effing hubris. This thing is eons old. It's seen the history of the universe. It is vastly more intelligent than anything that we've encountered, to the extent that control in innumerable futures, whenever it does acquire the knowledge from the sphere, it's able to destroy all life in the known universe. That's the amount of intelligence that this sphere being has. And it's inhabiting your computer and giving you suggestions, and you're just like, I think I got it figured out. Here's what it's trying to do. He's not concerned at all.
Yeah, the sphere's trying to. The sphere data is trying to take over our ship. I found but I've got a silent film everyone's laughing about. Isn't that great? And you kind of feel like Culber's like when he's telling Dr. Culber this. Culber's like, not my problem, man.
Yeah, I think one counterpoint to that it being that. Like you said, Bert, it's just so powerful and so smart that there really isn't anything they can do. So they do sort of have to accept it as they can't get it off the ship.
Yeah. I mean, he could tell people. He could be like, yellow alert. Somebody check out what's going on with the computer. He's just like, I gotta cook. I don't have time for these scams.
People are coming over, and I don't have enough matching ramekins.
Oh man, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go Black Alert to just for his dinner party. It's like, all right, Black Alert, and everyone's got like the suits and ties on. It's like, oh, Black Alert,
Black tie alert. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, it's this is when Saru goes to talk to Stamets, and they're talking about developing an alternate interface for the Spore drive, in addition to Stamets, in case anything goes wrong with him. Stamets is like, I've worked on a human interface for 10 years before coming up with the cyborg interface that I have because of the tardigrade. And Saru says 932 years of technological advancement has happened. And so, and Stamets is like, good point. I should check that out. So did they get access to all of the scientific advancement during the interim when they went to Earth or not? Because if they did, it really seems like they should have spent some time upgrading their ship, changing basically everything they do. But they didn't. They just were like, we got the new science, guys. Let's keep exactly what we have and take off. Like, it's just... there are steps missing here, and I really want to know if they got the new science or not. Like, for instance, one of the things that we know exists during the intervening period between when they left and when they are now is the emergency medical hologram. Right. This is a holographic doctor that has access to all of the medical knowledge that exists at the time. They got Colbert. He's a great guy. He's fantastic, but I think even if they want to keep him, he would benefit from, a co-doctor who was an EMH who had access to everything ever, including the science that he was never exposed to, because there's been 1,000 years of development. Like, Colbert treating patients with the medical science he knows in this time period is like you going to the doctor today and the doctor saying, Jesse, we got to bleed you. What's wrong is your humors are out of balance. You see, we got to bleed you a little bit.
So I'll grow a plant from the ground, and that's how I'm going to heal you now. Although maybe that's how they do medicine. Maybe that's how they do medicine in the future.
In the future, yes.
Yeah, there was a war. The holistic doctors won. Everyone's drinking rainwater, crystals. Amethyst.
Yeah, it's all crystals and tinctures now.
Yeah,
turns out that really
it is. Yeah, you do enough crystals, and you can grow a plant from the ground.
Turns out vaccines really were a hoax. That's what they found out in the future.
They found out after like 500 years, so it wasn't like right away. They took a while.
Took them a little while. Beverly Crusher was killing people with those hypo sprays.
Yeah,
those hypo sprays.
I would absolutely love for there to be a scene where Dr. Culber's reading up on the new medical developments, and he's just like, colloidal silver, huh?
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
It really worked.
It worked. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I swear, this might be something that I made up in my mind, but I swear in one of the Star Trek movies, McCoy says something like he's they're in the 1970s or 80s or whatever, and he's remarking on people's like barbaric medical practices because they're using old medical science, and he thinks that they're like, basically butchers, and that is how everybody should perceive Discovery when they encounter them. Like, what? Right. Why are you on that rowboat? How did you even make it here in that thing?
A 900-year difference. That's like 300 years or something.
Yeah,
400 years.
Yeah, because there's also a science fiction discussion about the exponential curve of technology, right? Like 300 years from where we are and 1,000 years from when Discovery is exponentially more technology, just because of obviously how technology works.
Yeah, technology, and the fact that you have, like, this is our technological advancement with our one species on one planet working on it. Now, up until the burn, this is hundreds, thousands of species on thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of planets and ships working on new technology and not coming up with anything except for shields.
And guns that go over your hand.
That's true.
They played Metroid a lot when they were younger, and they were like, wouldn't it be cool if the phaser was like on your hand, like a hand cannon, like Samus? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew.
And so, again, the optimist in me says, you know, there's going to be there. Maybe it's that technological process because there's not warp travel. It's very asymmetrical. I don't know why they can't, you know, transmit information through subspace communications really quickly anymore. But whatever. Nobody talks to anybody. Nobody knows anybody else. They don't share information. So all of the science is confined to this one species on this one planet and this other species on this other planet. So maybe they'll get to the Federation and they'll have amazing new tech that nobody else has access to, and it'll wow me. That's what I'm hoping for.
I guarantee you it doesn't. I guarantee you they find it, and the ships look only marginally more futuristic. They don't even look at. Remember in Star Trek Enterprise, when they meet the Enterprise J from the future.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, it looks weird, right? Like, it looks super futuristic. And I actually kind of, like, if you look back at that, like, it's a really weird design. It's like sort of this oblong saucer with, like, these really spindly nacelles. But it looks like kind of like, it has, like, this sort of, like really delicate, ephemeral kind of quality. It looks really, like, almost a little bit alien. And you kind of feel like that doesn't look like a starship. Right, but it also makes it look like it's from the future. I guarantee that's not what they have even 900 years in the future, and instead they're going to have stuff that looks almost like the Discovery or like a Picard era starship, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And all the models look the same. That's a prediction right now. That future.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hate to be on the Jesse train, but I mean that's almost for sure what's going to happen. Everything's going to be a tiny bit different.
Yeah, because we saw the ships when they show Starfleet blowing up during the burn. Those look like regular Starfleet ships.
Yeah, I've seen some renders, and they look like, you know, Starfleet ships that have been sort of dragged out to sort of elongate some of the points at the back, but other than that they look just like regular Starfleet ships.
Yeah, they're probably all the model from the season finale of Picard, the one that, like, when the entire Federation fleet shows up but it's all the same ship. And they just, all they did was just stretch those out. They're like, yeah, let's put a bunch of them sitting in different places, and then boom.
Yeah.